Hello and welcome back. This is Chris with Marksman Shooting Sports and CheapGunsUSA.com out of Westfield, Indiana, and you are watching Marksman TV. Today's video is a fun top 5 video of the 5 most iconic firearms from action movies, classic action movies. I'm going to say the 70s and 80s. As you saw in the clip, we are going to start off here at number 5 with the Steyr AUG. This was used in such classics as Commando, RoboCop, The Running Man, and of course Die Hard. It is a gas-operated semi or fully automatic, what would be known technically as an assault rifle, chambered in 5.56 millimeter, and it does feed from a detachable 30-round magazine. Now, as we saw from Carl in the movie Die Hard, it does have a detachable barrel, which he famously, stuck the barrel in it in the elevator, and that kind of got kids from the, growing up with 80s action movies immediately impressed with the Steyr AUG or AUG, which is just a futuristic design. And to quickly show you that, the bolt is retracted to the rear and then pushed to open to lock. There is a little latch here we can push down. That will allow the barrel to turn, and then off it comes, just like Carl showed us. We also have a nice nightstick if we need it. Just kidding. Now this one does have a 16-inch barrel. The original one that you saw in the movie Die Hard came with a 20-inch barrel. Now it was easy to replace them, as you can see here. They do come in OD green, black, and flat dark earth today. You can get them with or without the optic. This is a 1.5 power, which was a traditional scope power of the original. You can also get them today in a 3 power. Because of that, because of its iconic placement in those films, it definitely comes on our list at number 5.
I know what you're thinking. Did he fire 6 shots or only 5? Well, to tell you the truth, in all this excitement, I've kind of lost track myself. But Ian, this is a .44 Magnum, the most powerful handgun in the world, and would blow your head clean off. You've got to ask yourself one question. Do I feel lucky? Well, do you, punk?
Moving in at number 4 is the Dirty Harry Special, the Smith & Wesson Model 29, chambered in .44 Magnum. Now this one here is a 6-inch barrel, the one famously used by Inspector Harry Callahan. It had a 6.5-inch barrel for the main production running of the movies. There was one at one time that had an 8 3/4 inch or 8 7/8 inch barrel. Now his was just like this. It had a blued finish and the wooden stocks. And the funny thing is prior to the launching of the Dirty Harry movies, the Smith & Wesson company had a hard time moving the Model 29. And due to the releasing of the movies, it made the revolver insanely popular, and they were hard to keep on shelves anywhere, and gun stores would routinely double or triple the original asking prices and still have no trouble moving them. So quite an impact on that movie. Now, it wasn't only iconically used by Dirty Harry. Of course, James Bond was also another famous character that did use the Model 29 in the movie Live and Let Die. Also, we found this used by Robert De Niro in Taxi Driver. This was also used in Beverly Hills Cops 2 and Lethal Weapon 3. So, a very iconic 70s and 80s action movie firearm. Go ahead, make my day.
Walther PPK. 7.65 mil with a delivery like a brick through a plate glass window. Takes a Brausch silencer with very little reduction in muzzle velocity. The American CIA swear by them.
Now moving into our number 3 spot is the very iconic Walther Model PP and PPK. This one here happens to be a Walther Model PP made in the early 1940s during World War II, and it does have all the German inspectors and approval stamps on it, the Waffen-Amts, Nazi markings, if you will. This was, of course, made famous by the James Bond franchise. We did see it throughout the movies. They did start off being chambered in .32 after they did replace the Beretta. I can't remember which model it was. Started off in .32, and then by later movies it was the PPK and the chambered in .380.
Walther PPK. 7.65 millimeter. Only 3 men I know use such a gun. I believe I've killed 2 of them.
Lucky me.
Not only was it made famous by the James Bond movies, this was also used in a bunch of other classic action movies. Again, used by Carl in the Die Hard movies when he first entered the lobby and he had a suppressor on his. We saw it used by Anna in the movie Predator. And actually, funny enough, these were used in Red Dawn as stand-ins for Makarovs. So they weren't supposed to be PPs, or PPKs, but they were supposed to be Makarovs, and because, they were somewhat close enough, it did stand in okay on screen. Not only are these so iconic on the silver screen, they are just a very iconic firearm in general. Throughout the 80s and 90s, they are one of the best-selling concealed carry pistols. By today's standards, they are a little bit more of a novelty. Being a full steel frame and slide, they are a little bit heavy as a single stack 380 or 32, so there are better options out there. These were imported by Inner Arms as made by Walther, and then Smith & Wesson was given a contract to make them as well. You could buy them in stainless and blued. But anyway, that's our number 3 spot, the Walther PP and PPK.
Sergeant Dennis, call your watch captain. Sergeant Dennis, call your watch captain, please.
Have a nice day.
Moving into our number 2 spot, we would be remiss if we did not include the Beretta M9 or 92FS or 92F or 92S. Here we have a Italian police surplus 92S and a M9. Now, technically, a lot of what you would see in the 70s, or I'm sorry, it'd be actually the 80s. The 80s and the 90s action movies through today are actually typically 92Fs or 92FSs, which are very similar to what you see here. 15-round detachable box magazine, semi-automatic, 9mm, double single action, hammer fired with a decocker safety. So pretty much exactly what you see here, alloy frame, all the works. These are made very famous in the movies Lethal Weapon and Die Hard, as used by Bruce Willis and Mel Gibson. These are, of course, reused in an entourage of other action movies, even through today, including RoboCop, used by Joe Cox, and he used a 92F. Of course, you see them in a lot of military flicks because the M9 has been in the United States military since about 1982. So Hurt Locker is another one, kind of a more recent one, but we're not really talking about recent movies. So there you have it with our number 2 spot, the Beretta 92 series of pistols.
I missed too.
American, do you hear me? I want to talk to you. American, I want to negotiate. Do you hear me, American?
Loud and clear.
The Uzi 9mm.
You know your weapons, buddy. Any one of these is ideal for home defense.
Finishing up with our number 1 spot, it could be no other than the 9mm submachine gun, the Uzi. Designed by Uziel Gal, it is an Israeli submachine gun that does come with a collapsible stock, so it is a shoulder-fired weapon if you want it to be. Used as detachable box magazines, and it fires from the open bolt. This is used by both action heroes and their supervillains alike. The list of movies that this thing shows up in, I mean, I'll just name a few here. You have The Dogs of War, Scarface, Terminator, Commando, The Delta Force with Chuck Norris, RoboCop, Lethal Weapon, Under Fire with Ed Harris, just to name a few. Anytime there's a goon running around, a bad guy's posse or whatever you want to call it, at least one of them has got an Uzi. Maybe a couple of them have MAC-10s, but or shorty AKs or Spectra, but just the small, compact, submachine gun with the collapsible stock, and usually just carrying it in one hand. That is just the most iconic image that you will get out of an 80s action movie. So this has to be our number 1 spot. It could be nothing else. Well, that is my list. Again, that is just my personal list. You may disagree or agree with me. If you disagree, let me know down in the comment sections what you would have picked as your top 5 most iconic classic action movie firearms. Again, guys, thank you so much for stopping in. This is Chris with Marksman Shooting Sports and CheapGunsUSA.com out of Westfield, Indiana. You are watching Marksman TV. I will see you next time.